Gary Gibbon. Well, joining me now to discuss all this is the Ukrainian MP Kira Rudik, who's leader of the Liberal Golos party, and Greg Swenson, who's chairman of Republicans Overseas UK. Welcome to you both. Let me start with you, Kira. So it looks as if President Zelensky has been forced to eat humble pie. He's been forced to bow to the will of President Trump. As a Ukrainian member of parliament, how does that make you feel?
Matt, thank you so much for having me. Well, of course, I'm upset that the meeting went the way it went, right? And I know that President Zelensky has Ukraine's best interest in mind. So he does what he has to do. However, it's very upsetting because on a personal level, I can imagine how he felt when he had to stand up to President Trump and J.D. Vance, who are saying what they were saying, and they were wrong.
You would have done the same?
Matt, do you think we would all have done something differently? I think, of course, because he is the president of the country that is at war. And he was trying to bring this understanding to people who never been to Ukraine, who didn't understand what's going on.
But the reason why he didn't sign it, presumably, is because what was on the deal was not enough, especially for Ukraine's security. Is the stuff that's on the deal now that he says he is about to sign any different?
We didn't hear anything about the security guarantees. And I think what was the most painful in this Oval Office interaction was that President Trump was saying that him having relations with Putin is enough of the security guarantees. On behalf of Ukrainian people, no, we are not accepting that as security guarantees, the relations between President Trump and Putin.
Greg Swenson, thanks for coming on the program. So it looks as if your kind of mafia-style extortion has finally worked.
Matt, I'm sure people, critics of the president, will use terms like that. But what's really happening here is we're getting closer to a peace deal. The first step is the minerals agreement. It's a step in the right direction. That's going to bring U.S. involvement in Ukraine. It's going to give the U.S. a stake in the upside of Ukraine, and that's a path to security. So I think, after all the screaming last week about, the U.S. should provide a security agreement or a security backstop, we're a lot closer to that, and we'll be a lot closer to that.
Okay, well, let's see what a Ukrainian, a real one, Kira, has actually got to say about this. Go on.
Greg, what is the way for us to make sure that Putin would not attack us again? And I was in Kiev in 2022 when we had many U.S. companies that was there, and I remember how U.S. embassy was evacuating when Putin attacked. So how this time will be different?
How would it be different, Greg?
Yeah, look, we know that Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 were both failures ultimately. If anything, maybe they bought some time for the Ukrainian army to build, to build up its defenses. But look, it's trust but verify, or I would prefer don't trust and still verify. So of course Putin can't be trusted in general. President Trump thinks this will be different, but what we've tried for the last years, we collectively in the West, has failed, and all it's brought is a stalemate. So I think a different path is probably a constructive thing. Can we trust Putin on his own? Of course not.
But President Trump and J.D. Vance were saying that the presence of U.S. companies after this minerals deal is signed is enough for Putin not to attack. But he already attacked when there were U.S. companies on the ground. Again, I don't get the logic here.
Yeah.
Maybe you can explain that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a step in the right direction. We can argue over what happened in the past, and I wish it was February of 22 and we could do things differently. I would have preferred if the administration delivered F-16s right away, Abrams tanks right away. Unfortunately, we drip-fed for 3 years. We even held back on some of the financial support that was approved by Congress. So there's been mistakes here, but we have to understand that it's not February of 22 anymore.
But Greg,
we
sorry
have to
to
look
interrupt,
for a new path.
Just to be clear, the reason why some of the stuff, especially last year, was delayed was because of the pressure that President Trump put on his allies in Congress to vote against a deal. That's why the stuff was stuck in the pipeline for 6 months. And you can excuse the Ukrainians, correct me if I'm wrong, Kira, for not trusting the president when he's called the president of Ukraine a dictator, when he hasn't, clearly declared Russia as the aggressor. The trust has been shredded by none other than your president.
Yeah. Matt, I'd remind you that this started in February of 22. So any pressure during the campaign on the Biden administration, I really challenge that and doubt that. But this started in February of 22. Biden was very apprehensive about sending lethal weapons. So it started with some supplies, and then finally he changed his mind on F-16s. So not only was not supporting with military equipment, he was declining permission of countries like Poland to provide tanks and F-16s. So, and he still never provided the Link 16 program, which connects the communications on the ground with the F-16s, and that's why we're losing great Ukrainian fighter pilots.
Kira wants to come in. Kira?
Greg, do you have a plan for what would happen if Putin wouldn't come to the table, if Putin will break his part of the deal? Is there a plan for that?
Good question, Greg.
Look, it's a great question. We haven't gotten Putin to the table yet, and so there's no guarantee here. And I think the Secretary of State Marco Rubio did a good job of communicating that over the weekend. That this still depends on Putin. So again, it's a step in the right direction. We can't make progress on peace unless we get everybody to the table. We had Keir Starmer in Washington on Thursday. I think that was a step in the right direction. Zelensky on Friday didn't end well, but it's already turned around. So look, we need to get everybody involved here, including Putin, whether we like it or not, because he's key to this peace agreement.
You're absolutely right there. Kira, you want to come in again?
Greg, if President Trump wants to compensate for some of the expenses that American people had, why is he demanding something from Ukraine and not taking it from Russia? There are $300 billion of Russian money being stored. Why not to say that he wants this money? It's faster, better, and more just deal than any kind of rare minerals of Ukraine.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. I think it's a slippery slope when we start seizing assets and spending that money. It's a dangerous game to play. But more importantly, we have to get some concessions, obviously, from Putin and from Russia. There might be some economic deals to do with them too. And keep in mind, this is a partnership with Ukraine. This is not the U.S. going in and taking assets from Ukraine. It's a partnership. Ukraine desperately needs capital from the U.S. to develop their rare earth elements and their critical minerals, as well as their natural gas assets.
The second largest. First.
Okay,
we want the war to end. We don't need the capital just yet. We want the war to end first.
Okay, listen, I've got a final one for you.
We agree on that.
One final one for me, Greg, for you. With everything that Trump and Vance have said and done in recent weeks and months, frankly, people in this country as well as Ukraine are wondering whether America has turned from protector and friend to predator and foe. It's a good question.
Absolutely not, Matt. Absolutely not. One of the great outcomes of this, and President Trump's been talking about it for 8 years, and the Europeans didn't do anything or very little to increase their defense and security budgets. Finally, they are. If what we saw on Sunday here in London or here in the UK, it means anything. So, no, this is a great outcome. We want our partners to be stronger. I think President Trump is really happy about this meeting on Sunday, and this will all end well.
Right, we'll see about that. Just in 20 seconds, no longer, Kira, what does America need to do for you to actually feel reassured?
We need real security guarantees. And
if you don't get them, what about troops on the ground, European ones?
We don't know if that would work, right? We need to make sure that there is a comprehensive plan from Europe. That's the most important thing.
Okay. Kira Rudik, Greg Swenson, thank you very much indeed to both of you. And thanks for debating in a civil manner.
Thank you.